Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are live. It is still May. It is still my birthday week, month, whatever it is. We are still celebrating. And as you can see, and you were here last week, Karen's still here. She just won't go home. She will not go home. Let me just tell you, I've tried everything. I've tried hinting. I've even tried putting a bag outside by the door. I've tried all sorts of things. Anyway, good morning, everybody. It is Saturday, the 21st or something. Wait, 19th.
Yes.
Friday, Saturday, 21st. Today is the 21st of May. And excuse me. And it is story time. Before we begin, first of all, I'd like to say good morning to Grey Eagle, who is standing right between us, Karen, just to my right, as always. We have Karen, of course, as a guest sitting on my sofa, and we have Chris. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Rosemary. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning.
And how are things in Vermont today?
Beautiful blue skies, and it's going to be 88 degrees in the afternoon.
Wow. Wow, it's going to be 87 degrees here, but we do not have so much, well, on and off. We have intermittent blue skies, but it's a bit stormy here. And yesterday it stormed, and then we had brilliant sunshine, and then it stormed again, and we had brilliant sunshine. It was an odd day, wasn't it? And it's Florida. In the rainy season, it sort of might rain for half an hour, and then we have brilliant sunny skies, and then in another hour or two, we have another little spout of rain and so on. But it's still warm. It's still nice. We still love it here, don't we, Karen? Mm-hmm. And we might both of us be going in the pool later on. You just never, ever know. So, Chris.
Yes, and we have people saying, happy birthday week, happy birthday month. Eric's saying you might get a surprise today.
Uh-oh.
Judith is saying, I watched the replay of Cracking Up last evening, and what fun.
It was, wasn't it?
Sharon saying, good morning. Annika saying good morning. Who else is here? Silvana sending you rainbows and hearts.
Oh, I like that. I love rainbows and hearts. Okay.
So people are still logging on in our chat room.
So we're going to give it a few minutes then before I start my story this morning, because it is, after all, story time. So, Karen, why don't you tell us what you did yesterday?
Oh, I worked in the garden. What else did we do? I can't remember. My memory is like so bad. I don't remember.
She deadheaded all of my gardenias, which needed doing. That was a big job, wasn't it?
Henrik in the pool.
Helped my neighbor fix the pool pump. I was in the garden planting.
Oh, and we went shopping.
Basil. What else did I plant? Some rosemary, some mint, some oregano. I think the Americans would say oregano.
Did you get oregano?
Yes, I did.
Oh.
Yeah,
sounds like the Canadians say that too.
What'd you say?
We say oregano.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway.
That's where we get the half and half American British influence.
Okay. Anyway, so I planted, and then I also planted some of my favorite flowers, and I love these flowers, even though they are annuals and not perennials, and I mostly like perennials. I really like my New Guinea Impatiens because the leaves are sort of a gorgeous greenish red, dark, beautiful, rich color, and I like the pink Impatiens. You can get them every color you can imagine, but I like the pink ones, the pale pink ones. So we've got a whole bunch of those planted, and they're looking good, right, Karen? They're looking really nice. So the whole week it's coming together. This afternoon we're going to go to yet another garden centre, because it's been really weird this year, going and finding herbs and plants and so on. First of all, they're twice the price that they were last year, but second of all, I went to a couple of garden centres, and I went to Walmart and Home Depot and whatever and so on, and they hardly have anything, right? You've got to buy one thing from one place and then another thing from another place, because nobody seems to have very much altogether. It's pretty poor. So we're going to another garden centre today, and then what are we going to do this afternoon? Maybe swimming. I think we should have some Chinese food today. What do you think?
Chinese food today.
Yeah, what do you think? No?
Sure. We just had Chinese food yesterday and the day before.
We could have
Didn't
it
we?
tomorrow.
Oh, we didn't have
Today.
it yesterday.
No,
Oh, yeah,
no,
we did. For lunch.
I'm thinking udon noodles is what
okay.
I'm thinking.
Okay. And the beef?
And beef, yes. Anyway, muttering away to ourselves here, we watched, what movie did we watch? We're watching movies every night because we're hanging out, watching movies, and
What movie did we watch?
I don't know.
That's
You
so
see,
bad.
you see.
Karen, do you have vacation brain?
No, yeah, really.
Yeah,
It
the
was a
thing is,
good movie.
it's really funny because Karen is here on vacation, but I'm not on vacation.
I know.
So, I've got to sort of let Karen have a vacation time and do things and so on. But at the same time, I'm not on vacation. I've got stuff to do. I'll get in trouble with Chris if I don't do the things I'm supposed to do.
Big bad Chris. She's just awful.
Very big bad Chris. Now then, I don't know if anyone saw our cracking up yesterday, but we really did crack up. I think sometimes when we do that show, we crack up more before we go on the show. And then we get serious when we're on the show. And then we crack up even more once we've done the show. So, but we had a lot of fun, and my two friends, Kay and Kay, were on the show with me. And for those of you who are thinking, what is she talking about, cracking up? Well, cracking up is a term. The Brits use it, I think. I'm sure the Canadians use it. No, you don't use it. The Americans don't use it. But anyway, cracking up, if you're cracking up, it means you're laughing so hard. You're laughing so hard that you sort of, you're almost breaking apart at the seams. So cracking up is a term which means you're really having so much fun that you're laughing and having and anyway. So we do the show. For those of you who don't know, you can go and see it. You can go to YouTube and just put in "Cracking Up with Rosemary Altea" and you will find. Was this our third Cracking Up show?
It feels like that, yeah. Annika says, I watched yesterday's show last night. Quite an interesting take on the soul signs of Johnny Depp and AH.
Yes, well, yes, and yes, that brings me to a point, and maybe even a little bit to the story that I'm going to tell today. Yesterday, we did talk briefly about Johnny Depp and his ex-wife. And I am going to be very upfront here and say that I think that Johnny Depp is one of the most talented, the most creative, the most amazing actors. I think that for many, many years he was so underrated, but some people think he's quirky. Yes, he is, but he's amazing. And yes, I know that he drinks and I know that he takes drugs, and I'm looking at the Rolling Stones and I'm thinking, didn't all of them, and anybody who's creative, when they got into that frame of mind, and don't actors and actresses sort of have, they put themselves in that environment sometimes, and it must take a very strong person, a very strong personality to avoid the pitfalls of what fame brings to you, because not only does it bring the money and the glory, it also brings all of the other stuff with it as well. But let's just very briefly, before I started with my story, let's very briefly mention that so many people are either pro Johnny Depp or they're pro his ex-wife. And, and it seems to me from the people that I've been talking to, people are losing sight of what the trial is about. people are saying, well, he's as bad as she is, and she's as bad as he is, and so on and so forth. This is not what this trial is about. This is about, basically, bottom line, has Johnny Depp punched and bruised his ex-wife, yes or no? She's claiming that he did, and therefore it is has been extremely damaging to his career. This is that's all this argument is about. It's not about were they happy, it's not about were they sad, it's actually not even about did she take cocaine, did he take cocaine, because we now know they both did. Did he drink, did she drink? It's not even about that. It's simply did he punch her as she claims, did he abuse her as she claims, or did he not? And that's the whole crux of it. And that she went out and broadcast all of this stuff and says she has damaged his career. That's why it's called defamation of his character. And it has already damaged not only him, his family, his friends, his children, worst of all. And so, I guess that's why he is fighting to clear his name. Okay, so whether or not you believe or don't believe, whichever one of them you believe or don't believe, I was not into this at all. I had not watched any of it. I was not interested. I never watched the news anyway. I never bother with any of that stuff that they write in magazines. And honestly, can you believe most of it anyway? And I feel no. And I also feel that my life is too precious to sort of get involved in other people's minutiae. I'm saying that nicely. Other people's minutiae, and I don't. Why would I want it to touch me anyway? But Karen was hooked on it, right? She's dragged it into my house. Not that I'm not capable of switching a button and saying off, because I am, but I have sort of gotten a little bit involved in it. And yesterday, it occurred to me, watching the dynamic of these two people. If they had known, as we know, my group knows, I know, Chris knows, if they had known about energy, about compatible energy, about incompatible energy, if they had known about soul signs, if they had known what types of energy your soul is created from, and how that energy that has created your soul, how that energy drives you in one form or another, and how your actions and reactions are driven by that energy in some great part. Had they known all of that, they would have run a mile from each other, because, and as we can see, they are extremely, as never mind two people, two energies, two souls, two soul types, they are extremely incompatible. But you know how it is, sometimes we're attracted to the wrong things, aren't we? We sort of opposites attract, and sometimes the opposites, even though we know they're wrong for us, sometimes they fascinate us to the point where we get drawn in and we get dragged into situations that we know are not healthy for us. But watching all of the actors, and it's not just Johnny Depp, it's not just his ex-wife, it's not just the witnesses, it's his family as well. Looking at this, I am perfectly capable of looking and seeing and knowing which energy this person is, which energy that person is. The same as I'm perfectly capable of looking at my own family, and I can see the energy of my mother, the energy of my father. And boy, were they ever opposites. He was an earth sign, she was a water sign. Fire sign. Clash, 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 clash. And just FYI, we're not talking about star signs. I know that some people get it muddled. We're not talking about star signs in this instance. We're talking about soul signs. And if you haven't heard about soul signs, then then we can talk about that later. If anybody has a question about that or wants to know what that is, feel free to use the chat room. So because it's fascinating watching people's energy and watching when they're talking, when they're sort of reacting to things, it's very, very simple for me, because I know this is my world. I know this inside and out. It's very easy for me to say, oh yes, well, it's very obvious to me that Johnny Depp's ex-wife, the one who's taken him to court, because I think he has 2 or 3 ex-wives, so don't want to get them muddled up. But she is without a doubt a fire sign. And he, I feel, is a water sign. And they're not compatible in any regard whatsoever. But it's very fascinating watching these things. It's very fascinating watching how people of different energies, different types of energies, act and react amongst each other. My story today, it's okay. I want to be clear. The story, I don't want you to get too involved in the story, because what is important is what we're going to say after the story. And I'm going to tell this story. Some of you may have heard, but I'm going to tell this story anyway. I'm going to tell this story because I think if you listen carefully, it might help you, it might inspire you, you might understand why people act and react, because they are different soul signs, different soul types, different types of energy. But also, we'll talk about, once I finish the story, we'll talk about what is behind the story, which I think we can learn an awful lot from. And I shall be asking you all a question once I've finished telling the story. So don't get too involved in the story itself, because there's a reason why I'm telling the story. So are we ready? Are you ready, Chris?
I am ready. People are ready in the chat room.
Okay. All right. So once upon a time, as all good stories must begin, there was a young girl who was, what was she, 16 years old. This is me. I'm telling the story about me. This is my own personal experience. There was a young girl. She was just 16 years old. And so I'm now going to say, and I, so rather than talk in the third person. So I worked in a very fashionable dress shop at the time, and I had to work Saturday mornings. So when I came home at lunchtime on Saturday morning, the house was empty. There was no one in the house at all. And I walked in. I remember making myself a drink, and I sat in the chair looking out of the window. Now, we lived in a small house. It was a small, what we call a council house, or a house that was owned by the town. Anyway, we lived in this very small house, and we had a window, and you could see people going by quite easily. Anyway, I sort of got myself a drink and went and sat in this chair, sort of looking out of the window. And my mother and my 3 sisters, not long after, came piling through the back door, and into the kitchen. I don't know if they knew that I was in the house or not. I'm assuming that they did know, because it would be the time that I would be back from work. But anyway, so they all come tumbling in, and they're excited, and I can hear chattering, and they'd been shopping. My mother had taken them all shopping, so they were all talking about, I love the shoes, and oh, look at this dress and the blouse, and so on and so forth. And they're all in the kitchen, and they're giggling, and they're laughing, and they're having a lot of fun, and enjoying their shopping trip still, and enjoying looking to see the things that they had bought. And I was sitting in the living room, totally excluded from all of this, which was not at all unusual. You have to understand, I was not sitting there thinking, poor me, and this is awful, and so on. I was just, this was the norm. This was how it was in our house. So as I'm sitting there and sort of just half listening to what they're doing, I see my father go by the window. And the next thing, he looks in at me. I don't know if he saw me, but my guess is that he did. So he goes past the window, and the next thing he's coming in the back door, and my sisters, they see him come in and look, Daddy, what we've got, and blah, blah, blah. Now, two of my sisters are older than me. One is 2 years older, one is 4 years older, and the other one is a year, 18 months younger than me. So you sort of gather, we've got sort of 14 and a half, 15-year-old and an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old. And then, of course, there's my mother. So they're all talking all at once and showing what they've bought and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, my dad says, and he has a very sort of sergeant major voice, you know, when he speaks, you pay attention. He says to my mother, and what did you get for Rosie? Which is me. My father always called me Rosie. And what did you get for Rosie? Now, this is not an idle question. My father had seen me sitting by myself in the living room. This is not an idle question. He knows perfectly well that nobody's bought anything for me. He's just throwing it in the mix. And I think it probably was that he sort of suddenly maybe realized that there's something not quite fair about this situation. Well, so he throws the question out into the air, and to my mother, what did you get for Rosie? And there's a moment's silence. My sisters go, stop talking. Everybody stops talking. There's this moment of very awkward silence. And then my mother snarls at my father. What do you mean, what did I get? I didn't get her anything. And so now my father can be blamed for ruining this perfect, exciting, wonderful shopping trip they've all had. And sure enough, as you can guess, they did blame him for ruining their fun, special moment. So he immediately comes into the living room where I'm sitting. Now I'm sitting there now, my eyes are wide. I know trouble is brewing here. And I know that I'm going to be right in the middle of it. And I don't know quite what my father's going to do. But anyway, so he comes into the room, and my sisters and my mother sort of pile in behind him. And he puts his hand in his pocket, and he pulls some money out of his pocket, and he hands me this money, and he says, I want you to go right now, go get the bus and get yourself into town and buy yourself something, buy yourself a dress. Now, in my household, you have to understand, we did not have pocket money. We did not have pocket money growing up. Nobody ever gave you money. My parents never, ever thought to give us money. Any time, anywhere. If we were going somewhere, they didn't give it. They just didn't give us money. That was not what we did in our house. So for him to put his hand in his pocket and pull out, I don't know, $2 or $3 or what it was. I'm going, this a long time back. You could get a lot for a cup of $2 or $3. Anyway, so, was stunning to me. But I was afraid. I was afraid to argue with my father. I was afraid because I could see quite clearly the vitriol on my mother's face. Their nice little time together, their shopping trip together has been totally ruined by my father and also by me. Anyway, so I took the money and I ran and scooted out of that house so fast. So I buy a dress. It's the first time ever I've been shopping. It's the first time I've ever been shopping on my own. It's the first time ever that I've had money to buy a dress, and I totally listen to what my father says, and I totally buy the dress. So I come back. In those days when you went shopping, if you bought a dress, they gave you a brown paper bag to put it in. That's how it was. Right. So I come in. My father's in bed. He's taking his afternoon nap. And there's my mother and my sisters. And I walk through the door, and not one of them, my sisters, do not look me in the eye. They all look down. It's like complete silence as I walk through the door. But I'm 16 years old, and it's the first time I've been shopping, and I'm excited, and I've got a dress. And look, Mummy. And I hand her the paper bag and said, look, Mummy, I've got a dress. And she takes the bag and she throws the bag across the room. She snarls, and I mean snarls. This is my mother we're talking about here. She throws the dress across the room and she snarls at me, I don't want to see it. And that's the end of that. So I go out. I don't know where I go. I go to the bedroom or somewhere by myself. So there is my mother and my 3 sisters. They're all sitting downstairs. My father's in bed asleep, and I'm in my bedroom by myself. Now, in the sitting room, my mother here she is a fire sign, and she is a retrospective soul. If you don't know about soul signs, we're educating you a little bit here. She's a retrospective soul. She happens to be my most incompatible soul sign. I didn't know this at the time. So now we're coming to explanations, right? She is my most incompatible soul sign. My oldest sister is also a fire sign, also my most incompatible soul sign. Encouraged by my mother she was a mean girl. She just was a mean girl. And then I have my 2 sisters. One is an air sign, so she's going to just, go with the flow. And the other is an earth sign, but a different earth sign to me. So we are compatible in some ways, but in other ways, whereas I will stand and fight for a cause, she'll duck her head and pretend she's not. No, forget that. It's got to be something that's really important to her for her to fight for the cause. Here in this room, we've got all of this different energy, right? And a lot of it clashing and a lot of it very incompatible. Then, of course, we have my father, who is an earth sign, and he's a warrior soul, and I'm a warrior soul. So we are in so many ways very compatible in the way we're thinking and so on. That doesn't mean that I'm not terrified of him, because I was terrified of both of my parents as I was growing up. Fast forward, I'm trying to sort of get this story over and done with, because I want to get to the nitty gritty. Why am I telling you this story, right? So now I'm in my room. I'm staying completely out of the way of everybody. My father wakes up and comes downstairs and finds that I'm not in the room. And I don't know whether he sees the paper bag thrown in the corner of the room. I've no idea. Anyway, so he sees I'm not there. So he shouts to me. I hear him say to my mother, is she back? And I don't know what my mother says. She mumbles something. So he shouts to me, Rosie, come down here. So I go down into the living room. I do understand that my father is making a point. But unfortunately, he's making a point at my expense. So he says to me, so did you get something? And I nod and say yes. And he says, okay, where is it then? And I have to go retrieve it from where it's been thrown in the corner of the room. He says nothing about that. So I retrieve it and I pull out. He said, let me see. And I pull out the dress. And my siblings are sitting there saying nothing. My mother's there saying nothing. You could cut the atmosphere with a knife. It is so awful. Anyway, so there I am, and I hold up the dress, and my father is not content. Go try it on, he says. I dare not disobey him. So I go put the dress on. It doesn't help that I'm the pretty one in the family. It really doesn't help. Anyway, I put it on. I walk in the door. He says, turn around. He makes me do a twirl. At this point, let me tell you, I can tell you I'm not enjoying myself at all. I could die on the spot. I just wish the floor would swallow me. My sisters are now looking daggers at me. My mother is looking at me like she hates the very air that I breathe, which also is not unusual. and not an unusual look. Remember, she is a fire sign and a retrospective. I am an earth sign and a warrior. We are so polar opposites with our energy. I'm just a kid. She should know better, but she doesn't. Lots of reasons for that. It would be wonderful if I could do a bottle brick with someone like my mother, don't you think? But anyway, I'm digressing. Let's come back to this story. So my father makes me do a twirl, and he tells me how nice I look, and then he says to nobody in particular, but he's referring to everybody, don't you think so? Doesn't she look nice? And no, nobody says anything. And then, to make matters so much worse, he puts his hand in his pocket and he pulls out more money, and he says, here, he said, on Monday, I want you to go to the Leicester market, which is where we lived. I want you to go to the market. I want you to buy yourself a necklace to go with that dress. I take the money and I slink out of the room, and I can't wait to take the dress off, and I can't wait to hide. I have no idea what the rest of the night is like. I have no idea what my mothers and my sisters say to each other. I have no idea what goes on. I know only that the atmosphere in our house, full of all these different and conflicting energies, so full of all of this angst and upset, and there's not a water sign among us, so there's nobody trying to compromise, nobody trying to make anything better. So all of this conflicting stuff going on, all this energy, this awful energy going on, is creating an atmosphere that I cannot tell you that it ever went away. It was there before this incident, this story I've just told you, and it was there after. It never, ever went away. And I know that many of you are relating to this story, not necessarily the buying of the dress and all the rest of it, but relating to the unspoken, I don't like her, she doesn't like me, I don't get on with her, why does she do that, why does he have to, all of this different types of energy that are so conflicting, and there's so much angst and so much terrible stuff going on, and it's a dreadful atmosphere to grow up in. Now, the end. That's the end of my story, which is that much of what we want to talk about today. So that's my story. Now, I know many of you relate. I know many of you didn't get on with your mother, your father. My father was an alcoholic, or my mother was a this or that, or my mother preferred my sister over me, and all that stuff. Anyway, different energies, soul signs explains all of that. And it explains why, certainly my mother loved my sisters, all of them, more than she loved me. She used to talk to people about her 3 lovely daughters. And she would talk about her 3 lovely daughters in front of me. And we all knew who she excluded from that conversation. She all knew, the one daughter that she, for whatever reason, wouldn't admit to other people that she had. Oh, I have three lovely daughters, and then one does this and one does that. And there's no mention of the 4th daughter. And I can't tell you that it didn't hurt, because it did. And I can't tell you that the story I've just told you didn't hurt, because it did. And I can't tell you that I sat in that room listening to my mother and my siblings having a great time without me. I can't tell you that didn't affect me, because it did. So I know that you're all listening, and you all have your stories, and you all have similar stories, or you can relate to that in one way or another. If you had a great family, if you had wonderful, loving parents, and so on, it usually means, I'm looking at you, Karen, you had a fabulous family, and you had a fabulous family growing up, but you were, all of you, every one of you, compatible soul signs, compatible energies, every single one of you. You were compatible.
When I think about it,
you
I'm
see,
thinking about it.
right?
Yeah, right.
You were all compatible. So there was never any, there was, it was not that you didn't argue, not that you didn't have fights, not that you didn't, I'm sure you did, but not really, right? It was because you were all had this wonderful compatibility, the compatibility of energy. Now, okay, we briefly come back to what's going on with the court case with Johnny Depp and his and the other one, and we briefly come back to that, but only briefly because during the course of this court case and so on, it's been stated that Johnny Depp was abused by his parents, particularly his mother, and it's been stated that she was abused also by whoever it was in her family, and that's fine. So we know. I've just told you my story. Was that abuse? Was it just indifference? Did anyone in that scenario mean to hurt? And the answer is a big yes in my case, because my mother did mean to hurt. She did mean to be cruel. She was a spiteful person. She was a cruel person. So, the one that she is least compatible with, of course, is going to get the brunt of everything she feels. Whatever she did or didn't do, however she behaved, there's a certain point in all of our lives where we are old enough now to make up our own minds, and we're old enough to make our own decisions in life. And I think that this is the point of the story, and the point I want to get over to all of you here is, do you want to be a victim or do you want to be a survivor? Many people, because of their energy, because of the type of the energy they are, they lean towards the negative a little bit. But don't think that we don't know what we're doing. Don't think that we don't have choices. Don't think that I, at some point in my life, didn't have a choice. Do I choose to always be sad, heartbroken, feel sorry for myself, or whatever else comes along with all of that stuff? I have a choice to make, and every single one of us has a choice to make. I feel that the choices we make come way when we're young. We have a choice to lie, or we have a choice to tell the truth. When our parents look at us and say, did you do that? When I look at my darling boy Reese and I say, I want you to tell me the truth now. What did he say? What did you say? Whatever the situation is, he's going to look at me, and he's going to look me right in the eye, and he's going to make a choice right there and then. And that choice comes when he's 4, it comes when he's 5, it comes when he's 6, so on and so forth. And a lot of us, we make choices when we're children that we continue to follow through with, not realizing how damaging it is, and making the wrong choice, making the negative choice, will lead us down a path that creates so much negativity and discontent within us. I made a choice long before the story I just told you. I made a choice when I was very young, and I was fortunate to have my parents, because boy, oh boy, did they teach me how not to be. I was so fortunate to be able to look at the vitriol in my mother's face. Did it hurt? Yes. Did it affect me? Yes. Was I traumatized by it? Only if I chose to be. I chose not to be. You have choices. We all have choices. I chose not to be. It hurt me. It affected me. It probably traumatized me when I was a kid. I'm sure I had lots of traumas when I was a kid. But as I got older and I could see what was going on, I was very fortunate to be able to very often have my mother's vitriol staring me right in the face. And I remember this one time when I remember looking at her, and her face, the lip was curled, and my mother had a slightly hooked nose. Mine turns up slightly, but hers turned down, and then it sort of curled under, a little bit like a hook nose. I used to tease my sister sometimes about that, but anyway, because she had the same nose. But when it's sort of the hard eyes and the cruel mouth and the cruel expression and so on looking at you, and I remember thinking she looked just like the Wicked Witch of the west or the east or anyway, the horrible one. And she really did. And I remember staring up at her as she's staring down at me with this face. And I remember thinking, do I look like that? And I can remember thinking afterwards at some point, looking in the mirror, thinking, sort of, oh God. And I was so fortunate that happened to me, because it made me realize very early on, there's no way I want to look like that. There's no way that I ever want to have that hard glint or that mean look. And I think it taught me right there and then, you can make choices. You don't have to look like that. You don't have to be like that. I've never been able to understand people who say, I was abused, so therefore I am an abuser. Because if you really are abused, you never want to go that route, ever. It's all about energy. Will you be a victim or will you be a survivor? And I refuse to be a victim. I refuse. I look at Johnny Depp and I can see he is no victim. He's not going to be a victim. He's going to get on with his life and he's going to do what he wants. I look at his ex-wife on the stand, and boy, is she playing the victim. Who knows? I'm not going to go into does she have reason or not. I have my own opinions on that. But, boy, oh boy, I've seen true victims. I've seen real victims who very often are so ashamed of what has happened to them. You just want to scoop them up in your arms and hold them and say, no, you don't be a victim. You can fight this. And then I've seen people who play the victim. And I have no time for those people. So think about what I'm saying to you. Think about this story. I want you to ask yourselves these questions. If you are a victim, what can I do about it? Because I know that people who are victims, who play the victim, don't always like to be the victim, because it doesn't make you happy. My mother was never happy in her life. She had sporadic moments, but she was never really happy in her life. Don't be a victim, be a survivor. And if you don't know how to stop being a victim, throughout these stories and throughout our cracking up series and our off the cuff stuff, we're going to show you how. Write into us, please. If you feel that you're a victim, I am a victim and I don't want to be a victim anymore, I promise you, tell us why you think you're a victim. We will help you. Chris, I've talked enough. I'm not talking anymore. We're going to go to the chat room.
All right. Judith says, you are such a beautiful young lady. You still are. Physical beauty and soul beauty. Your soul light shines through your face and eyes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Judith. Appreciate it.
Oh, goodness. Everything's coming in so fast. People are, it's scrolling fast because everybody has something to say.
Good. I'm interested. I'm really interested. I don't want you to focus on, I'm not a poor me. I'm not a victim. I don't want anyone feeling sorry for me with that story. I told that story for a reason, for a purpose. I told that story because it's a small part of what happened to me. It's a much bigger part, let me tell you. But I'm trying to show you how you can come out of this. You don't have to be a victim.
All right. So prior to you asking your question, Annika says, despite the different energies, I still feel you were treated so wrongly by your mother.
Of course, and am I going to live the rest of my life bemoaning the fact? I love that you're saying that to me. I know why you're saying that to me, but am I going to spend the rest of my life bemoaning the fact, or am I going to get on with my life and make joy and bring joy and happiness into my life and all of those around me? Because let me tell you, when you are a victim and you're putting on that victim mentality, you are affecting everyone else around you, and that's worse. Don't you agree, Karen?
I totally agree.
Violet said, the cruel mother, the mean sisters, and even the dress reminds me of Cinderella.
I was just going to say that. I was just thinking that as Chris was reading that.
Oh, Violet, thank you.
A true Cinderella story.
Okay. Thank
Mark
you.
Mark says, I wonder who in spirit world was protecting you from the rebuttals you received from your mom to give you some peace. I gather Grey Eagle was there?
Yes, of course.
But you didn't know Grey Eagle at that
I
point.
didn't, but that doesn't mean it wasn't there. I mean,
Right.
people might not know their grandparents or their great grandparents, but that doesn't mean that they're not there. Keep going, Chris.
Maggie says, I apologized to my girls when I realized I did something to them that happened to me as a child, telling them I didn't like it and I would try really hard not to do it to them.
Oh, Maggie, good for you. Good for you.
Annika says, just by saying, quote, I have seen real victims, end quote, you made it clear how you feel about Amber Heard.
Oops. Oh, sorry. It's only my opinion. Let's not go there. Let's not go there.
Sherry says, your story is somewhat like mine, although my dad's mother was the giver of gifts. She would bring each of us gifts, but not all at the same time. Mainly, my mom was jealous, cruel, and hateful towards me and
Oh,
my grandmother. She still is that way today, even though it's been years since my grandmother has passed. My sister and brother were always cold and snubbed me. My dad was mediocre. I've always felt that I was born to the wrong family. As each have passed on, the stress has lessened. Learning to let go and stay away from them during the years have helped. I'm so opposite the way I raised my own family. Narcissistic treatment is horrible for anyone.
well, I'm so sorry that you had that experience, but by the sounds of it, boy, oh boy, you learned such a lot and you give into your own family. People tell me that I spoil my daughter and my grandson with love, but if I tell my grandson at least 20 or 30 times a day that I love him, so what? I've got to do it. And I do it. And the same with my daughter. Not so much with my daughter. I give more to my grandson, I have to say. But he's only little, isn't he? So cute, lovely. And anyway, carry on, Chris.
Michael says the mother seems like she thrives in discord.
Well, that's what a retrospective soul is. Actually, Michael, you put it exactly right. Retrospective souls do. Look, let's be clear. I'm an earth sign. Fire signs are my least compatible, but I have some wonderful friends. One of whom yesterday was on Cracking Up, who is a fire sign, but she's a bright star. She's lovely. She can be a real pain, but she's lovely. Um, it's not that I don't get on with all fire signs, but retrospective souls are the most difficult. And to be fair to them, they have the most difficult time of it because they can't get past their own, poor me stuff. But a retrospective soul who's seen the light and who's matured and grown is the best ever. I'm thinking of Jeff, who is the best. He's lovely. He knows who he is and he strives to sort of overcome the negativities of his energy, and he puts positivity into his energy. And boy, you couldn't get better than a mature retrospective soul. Yeah. Chris, keep going.
And don't you have a client that writes you a letter every year? Isn't that person a retrospective?
I do have a client who used to write to me every year.
This person you've also taught.
I, I know who you mean.
Okay.
He doesn't write to me every. What?
Sorry, go on. Go. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just think that you picked up on a really important point about understanding soul signs.
Yeah.
Which is that once you understand your soul and what drives you and what your energy is, then you become more of a mature in that you understand it and you're more accepting of why you respond in certain ways.
Yes.
And catch yourself. And it's not that, I always remember you saying you can't, it's hard to change that. So when something happens in a certain situation, you catch it and then you respond in a certain way. So you're more accepting of who you are.
Yeah.
Because of your soul
I
sign,
think, yeah,
which
I
is
think,
so important.
I think that's
It's
a really good.
really important.
Yeah.
Because then you understand why you're responding to somebody in that has a different soul sign, like your mother. No. If, do you see what I'm saying? Like
I
when you're
do.
in that dynamic, you get it.
I do.
Yeah.
And I think it makes you, I think what you're trying to say also is it makes you, once you understand, it makes you more tolerant. It helps you to give the benefit of the doubt to people.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you're
Yeah.
saying. So thanks for that, Karen.
So-
Carry on, Chris.
Let's see. Rhonda says, I was so blessed to have a wonderful family. I'm thankful every day for my family. Lorraine says, it's so like a Cinderella story. I believe mean-spirited people are their own worst enemies. It hardens their souls, not ours. Yes, we gave choices to bring joy.
I think, I think we just have to feel very sad for those people who live in negativity, who live as victims, because they are making choices that take away any opportunity for real joy in their lives. I think that's what I want you all to think about here. So if you are a victim or you have a victim mentality, you know someone, we need to help them. We need to stop doing this because there's no need for it. There's so much joy to be had in life. Carry on, Chris.
Megan says, I agree with you more than you can ever know. My life is similar. I have always said I take pieces from everyone, either what I want to be or not be. I'm never going to be a victim, and I truly love you.
Oh, Megan, thank you for sharing that. Thanks. You wanted to say something? Can you make it brief because time is
Just the
ticking.
question about victim and survivor. Depending on the type of soul sign you are you more apt to be one or the other?
Yes. If you
Like you're an earth sign.
yes.
So you
I'm
have
an
to be-
I'm an earth sign, but I have an outward energy. I have a very positive outward energy. I tend rather to look outside of myself to make decisions and to see the world than looking into myself. But the other side of an earth of the earth group is the hunter soul, who tends to look inward to see how it's affecting him and then look outward. So it's sort of not just about energy, it's how your energy is displayed within you and how you use it and how you react to it and so on. And I think that as we grow older, not everybody matures, but as we grow older, if we're fortunate, those of us who want to learn and want to grow, we mature and we learn how to use our energy, both our negative energy and our positive energy. For instance, for my soul sign, a warrior soul, there's a tremendous tendency for us to be very, very bossy. That's an immature earth sign will be a bossy, not intending or intending to bully or to push, but just being a bit bossy and wanting things done their way because it's an earth sign trait. However, when you mature, when you learn and you understand that, you can change the being bossy thing to being assertive. You can be assertive without offending other people, doing what you want to do, getting your own way in the things that are important to you, but also allowing other people their say and so on. So there's a difference between being bossy and being assertive. It's how we can use our energy and how we can change it to our advantage that is the most important thing.
Okay.
Chris.
Annika says, like you, Rosemary, I have chosen to be a survivor, although in comparison, you have had more hardship. Or maybe it's because I have made peace with myself.
Well, I actually don't feel that I've had hardship. Just to be clear, I am grateful to my parents for the way they were. I'm grateful to my mother that I was born to a mother like this because she taught me how not to be. That's not a hardship. It's a hard lesson to learn, no doubt about it. It's tough having to learn these lessons. But I don't consider that I've had hardships as such, I consider that I've been fortunate enough to have some really good, really tough lessons. And hopefully I've learned a great deal, and I've learned not all of those lessons. I'm not a perfect being, but I've learned a lot of those lessons, and it has taught me a great deal.
Pamela says, my dad and I argued a lot. Although I loved my dad and he, me, the arguments took a toll, but it did affect me. I realize I think that him and I have similar energies. I am an earth sign, Capricorn, and he is a Taurus.
Okay. So I'm going to stop you right there. It does have somewhat something to do with it, but when we're talking about earth signs, water signs, and so on, we are not talking about star signs, Pamela. I'm loving that you're getting into this. I'm liking that you're sharing this with us. But soul signs is very different. Soul signs is not about which part of the universe you were born and so on and so forth, which is very much astrology and astronomy. Soul signs is about the different pockets of energy, the different types of energy that each soul is formed from, created from, developed from. And so it is your soul that we're talking about, is your soul's energy, which let me put it this way. I could say that I'm a double earth energy. I'm a soul sign. My soul energy is an earth sign, and I'm a Taurus, so I'm an earth sign there. So I've got a double whammy. I'm very, very strong and strongly bound in that energy. But most importantly, my soul energy is what drives me, which is what inspires and drives me forward. It's something that I just can't help it. This is who I am. I have got, if I see something that is unjust, I've got to step in. I have to bite my tongue and hold myself back really hard if I see that something's going on and I know it's not appropriate for me to interfere. And even if it is inappropriate, I often interfere anyway, because that's who I am, and I'm an earth sign. But I love that you're getting involved, Pamela, and thank you for the comments. But we are not talking about astrological signs. We are not talking about astrological earth signs, water signs, etc., etc. Although it does sound similar, I know. We are talking about the energy that each of us, as a soul, first and foremost, coming to this earth to learn, to grow, to whatever we do. We're talking about the energy that our soul is created from. A little bit like, you make a chocolate cake, you want butter, eggs, chocolate, so on. With our soul, we want different ingredients. Soul science tells us what those ingredients are and how they affect us and how they drive us forward.
All right, Carol's talking about grief. Is it responsible to oneself, after losing a spouse, to open oneself to having a companion, knowing when you open oneself up to possible excruciating pain if the companion passes, or vice versa?
Everybody has a different opinion on this. I would say dare. Life is for living. If you close yourself off and shut yourself away because you're afraid of pain, well, I wouldn't be here today for one, I can tell you. Pain is momentary. When we lose a spouse, and Chris, you know what I'm talking about. When I say it's momentary, I know it doesn't feel like it. But in the larger scheme of things, in the universal scheme of things, one day, Chris, you'll be back with Mike, and you know this. Then it will seem like the grief that you have, which is so prolonged and so painful, it'll seem then like it's a blink of an eye. But when you're living through it, it seems, to go on forever. But you still, I feel I would advise anyone to not shy away from future hope, from future possibilities. Why not open yourself up to another relationship, companionship or friendship or whatever it is? It might turn into something, it might turn into nothing, but why deny yourself the possibility of perhaps happiness, joy, fun, not the same way that you had with your spouse, but differently, but equally as important. Life is for living. Please don't close yourself off, my darling.
Lorraine says, I believe we signed up for these parents we had to learn how not to be and how to be.
Well, I don't know.
God has plans.
I do think that we're put into environments where we, the best, the best might be the toughest. It's funny really when I think back to your school days, everybody. The teachers you remember the most are the teachers who were the toughest but the best.
I just think God has a plan.
Well, there you
And
have it.
not that we always like that.
No, we don't. But yes, I agree. Chris, we've got time for just a couple more things.
I was going to ask you that because you're right at time. Michael says, my aunt that I was placed with after my mother died of cancer reminds me of the mother I would love to be a bottom. Let's see, reminds me of the mother I would love to be a bottom bricker because I am not sure if I have a victim or survivor mindset.
All right.
Oh, so Michael's saying he wants to be a bottom bricker.
Yeah.
Oh, Michael. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You want to join our club, Michael? You want to be a bottom bricker? We'll gladly have you as a bottom bricker. And anyone else, if you want to be a bottom bricker and you don't know what I'm talking about, go to our website, rosemaryaltea.com. You can see examples of the bottom brick exercise. We have some fantastic bottom brickers. It's a very small and exclusive group of people, I have to say. Will we allow you into the club or not? Michael, yes, we will. If you want to be a bottom bricker, please email Chris, K-R-I-S, at rosemaryaltea.com. If you want to do anything else, if you want us to share a story, or if you have a question, again, Chris, K-R-I-S, at rosemaryaltea.com. Or you can just email rosemaryaltea.com because Chris will get it either way. I think that's it for today, folks. I want, so I've got the cartoon image now.
That's all, folks. Yeah.
I would like to say thank you to all of you who have been listening. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for your questions. We love having you. And we hope we've inspired you just a little. I keep my fingers crossed that we've inspired you just a little bit. I'd like to say thank you very much, Chris, because you do such an awesome, such a fantastic, such an amazing job, Chris. You're amazing. She does an amazing job. I'd like to say thanks to Karen as well. I know for those of you who think that she looks terrified sitting on this sofa, she really isn't. She's just got the deer in the headlights look going on there.
I know, I don't know where to look.
but she really is.
Do I look at you? Do I look at the
People
camera?
have called in saying, I think she's terrified of you, Rosemary. No, actually, are you?
Especially when
Are
I'm
you
paying
terrified?
attention. Well,
Are
I'm
you
paying
terrified
attention
of
and
me?
listening to what you say.
Are you terrified of me?
Not really.
See, only
I've been around you too long.
only sometimes.
I've been around you long enough.
Anyway,
Only when you're in the hot seat, right, Karen?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, everybody.
But I haven't been in the hot seat for a bit.
No,
Oh,
but
God, you just cursed yourself.
Oh no.
Anyway, and especially I'd like to say thank you to Grey Eagle for being with us and helping and inspiring, all of what we do here. So until we meet again, we should be back next Thursday with The Spirit World Sees All show, a Thursday morning at 11 a.m. We'll be doing some off-the-cuff stuff, and we'll be doing all sorts of things. Go to the website and take a look, and if you want to know more, or if you have any suggestions, or you want to know more about my books or whatever, and so on and so forth, or if you'd like to know more about soul science, please feel free to go to the website and email us, and Chris will do her best to answer you as soon as she can. Until
Rosemary, Monday at
Yes.
4 p.m. Healing
Yeah.
Hands Around the World.
Oh, okay. All right. At 4 p.m. on Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that would be 9 o'clock British time. that's as much as you're getting from me. I can't go all over the world with this, but so 4 p.m. On the east coast of America, and 9 p.m. all over the UK. We shall be doing our healing hands around the world. I'm going to be talking to you about healing, what it means. I'm going to show you a little bit. I'm going to give you some healing. If you'd like to join in with that, please feel free to connect with us then. This is it. Finally, I've tried it 3 times. I'm going to try for the final time until I see you all again. Please have a very, very blessed rest of the day. Have a very blessed weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.